So this is one aspect, and previously the other interesting aspect of most of the coronavirus is they have significant immunosuppressive and immunomodulatory effects, which are a major part of the manifestation. That is why drugs like dexamethasone, tocilizumab, immunomodulatory drugs have actually come in a big way. But there has not been that much of a discussion on the role of the renin-angiotensin system in this. So first of all, renin-angiotensin is not fully understood. It is not properly taught in books and review articles. There's a lot more to it than that. Next slide. So if you want to understand which all organs will be affected by this, we need to look at where all this ACE2, that is angiotensin converting enzyme 2, which is a different isoform with different targets than angiotensin converting enzyme 1, which we are all familiar with. And so this is different from the enzyme that is inhibited by ACE inhibitors. This has a very wide tissue distribution, which is most commonly present in the GI tract because it is closely related to the, it probably have a function in the digestion also. And then if you look at lungs, the primary organ is actually relatively lower expression. It's actually not very high in the but it is expressed widely in the lung, but the absolute quantity is much less. Next slide. But it has been so, and one property of this coronavirus is that they have dual receptor use. They can actually, or most coronavirus can use two different receptors, one or the other, and different situations, one may be primary, but this has been proven that all these SARS viruses actually use only ACE2, and if ACE2 is not there, they don't get infected. But then ACE2 is there, if it's not there, it has a problem, it's widely expressed. So this is a proof that ACE2 is the receptor for SARS coronaviruses. Next. And if you look at the protein level, it is even lower than the mRNA level, but it is there, and this is actually, and there is another interesting thing. In post-mortem studies, it was shown that compared to healthy lung biopsy specimens, post-mortem lung in even COVID patients have increased this ACE2 protein. But if you look at compare with influenza, the ACE2 level in the dead, in the post-mortem specimen is lower than the ones in influenza. This is something some people will raise why that is so. But if you look at the actual infection early on, this, not the at the time patients die, you will see that ACE2, this expression is rapidly downregulated once this virus infects the cell. This is what this actually shows, that this once the virus infects the cell, virus rapidly downregulates ACE2. This leads to deficiency of ACE2. So this is where a lot of confusion occurs. People say that, okay, this drug increases ACE2, it is bad. No, the virus itself decreases ACE2, and many, or rather most of the specific complications of this virus infection can be seen as a deficiency of ACE2. So much so that there are even studies being planned to give ACE2 as a replacement therapy. In fact, ACE2 trials for even other lung diseases like ARDS, severe ARDS, and pulmonary hypertension are all underway. Next. Okay. This is an overview of the renin-angiotensin system. So you see, there are a lot of things in this diagram which people were not familiar with. We know about the renin, we know about the ACE1, but this ACE2 is something which is taught fancy, relatively new. So what we need to know is that angiotensin 2 is formed from angiotensin 1 by ACE1, which we are familiar with. And this angiotensin 2 can actually go into two different pathways of degradation. That is, basically, if you remove additional amino acids from it, they can form additional products which we now know are biologically active. This is a very important thing. So two ways in which they can be degraded is, one is they can be, amino acids can be removed from the carboxyl end of the peptide. That is carboxypeptidase. And the main carboxypeptidase is the ACE2, which is a receptor for SARS-CoV-2 and all SARS viruses, and which is the one which is downregulated after SARS virus infection. And this carboxypeptidase activity leads to two products which are angiotensin 1 to 7 and almandin. Both these angiotensin 1 to 7 and almandin have vasodilatory effect and are actually now understood to be the principal antagonists of angiotensin 1 action at the our familiar angiotensin 1 receptor. So, this, in fact, even in various lung diseases, also giving angiotensin 1 to 7 has protective effects. And on the other hand, there is if you remove protein amino acids from the amino terminal end of the peptide, you get what are called angiotensin 3 and angiotensin 4. If both the enzymes act together, then you get inactive products without biological activity. And there are separate receptors for each of them. And what is important to know is that the almandin receptor, that is MRGD, the angiotensin 1 to 7 receptor called MAS, they are counter-regulatory. They inhibit the action of angiotensin. They are vasodilatory and that is vasoprotective, etc. Whereas angiotensin 4 has some additional effects which I will mention later on. Next. And one thing, just go back to the slide. And another thing is that we also need to know, if once angiotensin acts on the angiotensin 1 receptor, that leads to down regulation of the ACE2. How does it happen? There are two ways in which one is there is a proteolytic that is proteasomal degradation of the intracellular ACE2, and surface also the one angiotensin converting enzyme 2 on the surface is also cleaved by the TACE or ADAM17 and released. So these are how the ACE2 levels are lowered. And so what you will realize that this is there are once angiotensin 1 receptor is activated, that itself down regulates ACE2, and so any inhibition of angiotensin converting enzyme 2 leads to exaggerated signaling of the angiotensin 1 receptor. So many of these things can be seen as overactive angiotensin 1 receptor. Now, what happens to lung? So I mentioned earlier that in people with lung disease like influenza and COVID, after death, increase ACE2. So why is ACE2 increased? What if ACE2 is not there? So people actually looked at removing this ACE2 and what happens to lung disease. What has been found is that lung disease actually gets exacerbated in the absence of ACE2. This is needed. So even in a lung, normally if you instill some hydrochloric acid into the lung, like an aspiration pneumonia statement, this chemical pneumonia due to dilute hydrochloric acid, it normally doesn't do anything. But in ACE2 deficient mice, it causes ARDS. So basically, when different kinds of lung injury, from hypoxia to acid to viral infections, in all of these, to tide over these things, you need ACE2. And in the absence of ACE2, there is increased risk of developing of ARDS. Next. And indeed, it is very interesting to know that just if you give the spike protein of the SARS coronavirus, without the virus, only the spike protein with acid, you can actually induce ARDS. So the virus itself is not needed. Spike protein, by downregulating ACE2, can cause ARDS in various. And interestingly, this can be blocked by our ARBs. That is, drugs like telmisartan, losartan, and other angiotensin receptor blockers can protect the lung from lung injury in animal models where spike protein induces ARDS. Now this carries, so it's not only in SARS, but also in influenza, where we know that in influenza infection the levels are high. Even in their ACE2 knockout mice have increased risk of ARDS. So this is a respiratory syncytial virus, H7N9, H5N1, various all different models of influenza also. ACE2 has a protective effect, and loss of ACE2 leads to increase in lung disease. So ACE2 is not a bad thing. Although ACE2 is necessary for the infection, once infection happens, ACE2 has a protect. So this is like a dual kind of a thing, and likely treatment with angiotensin receptor blockers may actually protect from this lung damage. Next. And we are all familiar with the cardioprotective effect of angiotensin 2, and in various animal models of hypertension, the angiotensin and aldosterone are needed for the fibrotic changes in the heart. And this is not only in the heart, in various tissues, this kind of a cardiac disease and the aging, inflammation, all of this requires angiotensin. In fact, one of the complications of coronavirus, which has perplexed a lot of people, is myocarditis, which occurs a little later. That is, once many patients who recover from ARDS, they succumb to myocarditis. In fact, there are angiotensin 2 models of myocarditis, and interestingly, in animal models, it is strain specific. Not all strains are prone to angiotensin 2 into. So there is a lot of variation. Not everybody may get it. So next. And if you knock out ACE2, the sensitivity to angiotensin-induced myocarditis and cardiomyopathy is increased. So if you don't have ACE2, the heart is normally okay. But if you give angiotensin 2, it leads to about 4 weeks time, the fulminant myocarditis happens, and there is cardiac fibrosis, and the mice dies of heart failure. So this is a good model of probably what is happening in some of the people who have myocarditis following COVID. Next. And what is the other characteristic? The most important thing we should realize, we must notice about SARS-CoV, that is COVID-2 infection, is that age relation. That is, mortality rises with age and is very high in older population. In fact, that is slowest in the 20 to 30 age group, slightly higher in a lower group also. And then, so what is the thing? And another thing is all these age-related diseases like hypertension, diabetes, etc., which was in older, they also exacerbated. So there is something to do with aging in COVID-19. Next. Angiotensin has been shown to induce oxidative damage and aging, not only in vasculature, heart, and multiple organs. Besides oxidative damage, there is decreased telomere length. There are multiple mechanisms by which angiotensin causes aging, and angiotensin receptor blockade, AT1 receptor blockade, has been shown to decrease the age-related things in many animal models. So basically, what we are having is aging predisposed to it, and angiotensin also plays a role in aging, and what we are maybe seeing is an accelerated aging. Again, how does this happen? So if you give in mice, if you treat them with T cells from young animals and old animals, T cells from old animals can cause more damage in the presence of angiotensin. Again, angiotensin is needed for vascular fibrosis and loss of elasticity, that is making the vessel stiff, and all of this. So the T cells from older animals can accelerate this process. So what we see again, it's not only that blood vessels of old people are older, the immune system of older individuals are senescent, and these older immune system from the older people are actually more likely to cause vascular and other tissue damage. So what we are seeing is the interaction of multiple pathways, the immune system and the renin-angiotensin system coming together to hit the older people harder. Again, this can be blocked with angiotensin receptor block, ARBs. Next. Now, and what is the next mystery in COVID? The thrombosis. Thrombosis is another joker which has been like unexpected thrombosis, microthrombosis, and macrothrombosis in different tissues. And again, I told you there is another thing called angiotensin 4. Both angiotensin 1 receptor, that is AT1 receptor, and the AT4 receptor activation leads to increase in what is called plasminogen activator inhibitor 1. Plasminogen activator inhibitor 1 is a key protein in the blood circulation, which inhibits tissue plasminogen activator and activated proteins. And this is pro-thrombotic. And the PA1 is increasing diabetes and metabolic syndrome. And in fact, these levels correlate with the risk of thrombosis, and it even has a diurnal rhythm. PA1 levels are high in the morning and low in the evening, and correlates with the increased risk of thrombosis in the mornings. Most of the strokes and the myocardial infarction happens early morning, and this is due to the higher levels of PA1 in the morning. PA1 can and the primary protein in the blood which inhibits. There are two proteins which inhibit blood clotting. That is tissue plasminogen activator and activated protein C. Both are inhibited by PA1, and the protein which can inactivate PA1 is actually activated protein C. And protein C gets activated protein S, and hypoxia is a powerful inhibitor of protein S. So we've heard that in the beginning, people are afraid of giving ventilating patients with coronavirus, and when they delayed ventilation, there are a lot of death and complications. And people notice that if you give oxygen early, that is non-invasive oxygen early, and treat hypoxia, the survival improved, lung damage decreased, and survival increased. So this could be one mechanism how hypoxia is contributing to thrombosis. So decreased protein S from hypoxia and increased PA1 from renin-angiotensin activation and diabetes. So all of these are, converging on a PA1, which makes the situation pro-thrombotic. And in addition, there is endothelial activation, and endothelial activation is also pro-thrombotic. All of these converge to a scenario where you have microthrombosis and thrombotic microangiopathy, and even so now you understand what we have coming to. Next. Then another mysterious manifestation of coronavirus infection is patients complain of pain and severe pain, and is a complaint, and pain and angiotensin 2 receptor activation in the macrophage derived glial tissues also it contributes to pain block, and in various animal models of neuropathic pain, blockade of this actually relieves pain. So even renin-angiotensin can also explain some of these mysterious manifestations of COVID. Next. Then we know that IL-1 and IL-6 are activated, and there are other ways. You see, there are other mechanisms also in which cytokine can be produced. So this coronavirus inhibits the good kind of immune response that blocks viral infections like type 1 and type 2 interferon responses, but it increases IL-1 production, and that is due to inflammasome, which you might have heard. But renin-angiotensin system also contributes to cytokine production. What happens is that angiotensin 1 receptor signaling leads to increased and ADAM17. ADAM17 is the TACE, the same thing which cleaves the ACE2 and leads to one of the mechanisms by which the ACE2 levels are decreased. This ADAM17 also cleaves TNF, surface TNF alpha, soluble IL receptor. All of these actually leads to increased cytokine production through an amplification loop. So by blocking angiotensin receptor, that is AT1 receptor, you can actually partially decrease the increased cytokine production through this mechanism. So there are all the oddities of coronavirus which cannot be explained by the immune dysregulation are all explained by this renin-angiotensin pathway, and there is crosstalk between the immune system and the renin-angiotensin system and aging. So which is why we have this unique virus which causes severe complication in a subgroup of people, whereas younger individuals most of them remain normal.